Hi everyone, Sumatsuki here with another Sue's Muse. Today I have a friend and a delightful singer. Many of you know her, Celia Berk. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
I
you for
love your
inviting me.
room. Is that
Yeah,
your music room or?
it's the room I live in. It's my office and my music room and everything else. So yeah.
I have this habit of Julie Rayburn taught me this, another singing friend that most of you know, taught me that to sing in the same place helps you cognitively and mentally remember stuff. Do you find that to be true? Do you find a spot that you rehearse in or?
Um, Actually, it's interesting. This new show, when I went to learn or relearn the lyrics that it turned out I didn't remember as well as I thought I did, I started out in the bedroom for some reason. And then once I started to add in the patter and everything, then I was like on the move.
Mm.
And when I'm learning, if I can walk a show, physically walk a show, that helps me wire it in also. So
That's
you'll,
interesting. I worked with Gretchen Reinhagen once, and she had me stand in the studio and not even perform each song. She had me do my patter and sing through my entire. It was the most valuable thing that I got from any
yeah,
director in a long, long time, and I do that now as a
yes.
part of my process. But
So there's all kinds of, tricks that you develop for yourself, and then you have to put it away and let it bake a little, and then you have to monologue it, and then you have to flip the order or just shuffle the order so that you
so your
don't.
show's coming up quickly on May 4th. You're at 54 Below. It's a
That's
seven
right.
o'clock hit, right?
That's
And it's a
right.
retrospective of, it's called For the Record, but it's a retrospective of all the different CDs that you've put out. Tell us a little bit about the
Yeah.
project. Or we were just
Yeah.
talking off camera, calling it, What Was I Thinking? That
Yeah,
was the name.
otherwise known as What Was I Thinking? And it was the idea came from Jeff Harnar, who has directed all of my shows based on recording. So every time I did an album, I always say he safely delivered the album to the cabaret stage. And so I call him Dr. Harnar,
There you go.
who delivered the baby. And he said, you have all of these things that you've recorded, including singles and EPs, and now you're doing a new project. Why don't you do an evening of all of these recordings? And I thought, oh, that's a lovely idea. How hard could that be? But it turned out, first of all, each album was in a different box in the closet. Each music director wrote their charts differently. I can't have the exact musicians that I had on those recordings because I'd need a 30-piece band. And I just really didn't remember all the lyrics. And so the first month was just about going through each of those songs and going, how did you remember these lyrics the first time? Because you have little tricks that
Mm,
you have about, especially list songs.
yes.
They're brutal.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. And then
Oh
Jeff
my.
been having a wonderful time.
It's kind of
Uh,
a nice walk down memory lane and
really is.
understanding why you did a song back in the day and then how
Yes.
it's changed possibly. Have you found that to be true? How the stories or the lyrics changed a little bit with where you are today?
Yeah, well, they have a different meaning
Mm.
looking back on some of them, and it certainly evokes how I felt for that first show, and then coming and doing a second album, and then doing a pivot and working with jazz musicians, and then recording holiday singles, and all of those things. It brings it all back, and it gets quite emotional
Mhm.
sometimes just thinking
So
about.
this would be kind of like this show's going to be kind of like a box set of, if
That's exactly how
the
Jeff
best
described
of
it.
Celia Berk,
Yes,
right?
right, right, right. And because I'm, continuing to record and I'm in the middle of releasing these rolling EPs about the seasons, we're weaving some of that in as well. So some
Tell
of
me
this,
about the EP concept. I was thinking about going back in and recording again, but then I'm like, well, nobody buys CDs anymore. So this kind of idea of releasing things and going straight to, what about Spotify or wherever else we
right, to
sell
the
our
streaming
music,
platform.
was
Right,
this
right.
part of your process in thinking this might be a good way to go?
Yeah, it was some of it was just a learning from the third album, which took 2 years to create. And part of that was that it got interrupted by COVID. But then you have this physical album, and you look at how many physical albums that you sell, and you go, all right, there'll always be a small market for people who want to take a disc and put it in their CD player, but I need to wrap my mind around it, and I need to understand what's been lost and what's been gained. So same thing. It's like, what was I thinking? I thought, oh, so I'll do a rolling concept. What's the easiest way to structure a rolling concept would be the Four Seasons, right? Well, it's 4 times as much work. It's not.
Again, what was I thinking?
What was I thinking? What
This
was
is
I
the year
thinking?
of what was I thinking for Celia Berk.
Yes, I think that is what, yeah. And having a wonderful time. And I have always been incredibly lucky when it came to collaborators and teachers and people who are willing to help me and support me. So it's not for lack of support, but it's just in my head 24/7. It's
Who are your musicians? Let's give them a little shout out
yeah,
for
it
the
is.
show at 54.
Yeah, and I don't think most people would know these musicians at all. The music director is Balint Varga, who is Hungarian, and my record producer, Scott Lehrer, spotted him at 54 Below about a year ago and said, God knows I'm always looking for new collaborators. And he said, I just have this feeling. I saw this guy, and boy, does he have a certain kind of taste and vibe. And I just feel like the two of you would click. And so we got together and I pitched him the rolling EPs idea, and he liked it. And he agreed to be the music director for 54 Below, which is really very nice of him because proportionally his stuff is the least amount of it.
Mhm.
So he had to go through everybody else's charts and say, if we have these musicians, how are we going to create something that makes sense musically, which has really been extraordinary of him to do for me. And all he asked is that he had musicians that he knew and he wanted to use. And so
Well,
that
that's
was
just smart too. When the MD works with people that he is a simpatico with, it's
right,
good for everybody. Yeah.
right, right. So the bass player is Trevor Robertson. The guitars, we have guitars and ukulele, is Ethan Hack Shabbat. And he is the only musician on my summer EP. So he's playing all kinds of guitars that have been overdubbed and the ukulele. And then Anthony DeBartolo on percussion. So it's the three of them and Balint. And we are about to sit down together in the rehearsal studio and go through everything. So it's very exciting. And, you know, one of the reasons I like to mix it up with collaborators is that I feel like if you use the same collaborators over and over again, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. They can decide what you're capable of, but just as importantly, you can decide what they're capable of also. And then you bring somebody else in who goes, I didn't know she couldn't do that, or I
Right.
didn't. And
What you
I,
just said, that she couldn't do that. That's really important. You're right.
right,
You're right. It's
right,
like a marriage. It gets stale. You got to freshen it up every
right,
now and
right.
then. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that anything was wrong with the relationships. It's
Right.
just you need to keep shaking it up.
Yeah.
Um, on the other hand, that's another layer of work because you've got to normalize with each other and learn each other's sense of humor and learn where your hot buttons are so you don't inadvertently push them, and how do
Mhm.
you talk shorthand with each other. So all of that has been part of this year as well.
You
So
sound like I like the process of getting to the stage as much as I do performing. I really do. The process is really what it's about. It's
yeah.
getting on stage is the gravy. You feel similarly to that?
I do
Yeah.
because I'm at heart I always say I'm a detective. So when I pick up a piece of music, I feel like I'm a detective. It's like, what is this song about that could only be my version? Why would I sing it? And why would I sing it at this point in a program? And then to figure out how to shape something and then how to frame what you want to ask of your collaborators and how to keep your ears open to what they're saying to you, sometimes carefully and sometimes directly.
And do
To
you
me,
sketch out your script and then bring it to Jeff and then
yeah,
yeah, he kind of redlines it and yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we have a very good back and forth in that way.
Well, Jeff Harnar, knowing
It's like you never have to worry that anything's going to be in bad taste ever. So that's off, that concern is off the table.
yeah.
It's question, is that my sense of humor? Is that the way I would say it? And we don't get all fussed with each other.
Mhm.
And we say something and it makes total sense one time, and we sit down 10 days later and it's like, eh. I always believe the first idea is a bridge to the better ideas, hopefully the bridge to the best idea.
Now,
But
I know that your background is technical, and you and our dear friend Sarah Rice shared a vocal coach for years. And was it Sarah who actually brought you to Cabaret? I met you back in the day when we were doing these road trips and going upstate to sing these concerts. But when did you transition, or when and how did you find Cabaret?
yeah, it's a little bit of several different people, but Sarah was absolutely central. And I forever say that when I stand on a stage, I wouldn't be here if Sarah hadn't plucked me. And she collected stray
She
animals, and I
really did. We were quite a little
collected
bunch of
strays.
coconuts, weren't we?
Yeah, we really were. And I had the voice lesson after her every week, and I had started doing some demoing of things with Alex Rybeck as we were working together. And Sarah said to me, "That's gorgeous. You should come and sing with this group that I've put together. We sing once a week, once a month upstate in a church. And there's just enough people to get your adrenaline going." And I had not sung in front of anybody in like 30 years. So that got me up on a stage.
Mm.
And I think if I hadn't done that, I would then never, ever, ever had the nerve. And then I met someone in that group, Rich Flanders, and I did my first show
I,
with
that
him.
was a wonderful show. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a great singer too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we looked at each other in Sarah's living room one night and said, "You want to do something together?" And we've got 4 songs out there that are on all the platforms, and they still get picked up and listened to, which is really fun. So Sarah to Rich, so I didn't have to go out there on my own. And Rich and I did Don't Tell Mama together, and then I recorded, and because I recorded, I had an album that people would want to hear live,
And
and
of
that
course, your connection with the Cabaret Convention and Miss KT, our beautiful Miss KT, that kind of put you on the map with theater and cabaret goers. So I guess you kind of really helped you build your audience that way. So,
correct. Yeah, and so I talk about all of that in the 54 Below show. I
mhm.
talk about going to my voice lessons for years and years and saying I was never going to do anything with it until I did something with it. And then to have it heard by the Mabel Mercer Foundation, the album, and to then be invited to sing at the Cabaret Convention, and then to create shows out of each album. So that's how we weave in the story and kind of structure the evening. But
Looking
what's
back at the singer that you were when you
mm,
started, a little more, you know, classical perhaps.
yeah.
What has been the biggest growth spurt for you, in your opinion, about your own performance in terms of then to now?
Um, I think there are a couple of things. When I started out, I was singing in a higher, more legit range, and I had never sung with a microphone. So that moment of singing with a microphone and coming down into this range felt exactly right to me and was a way into the most essential thing I learned eventually about cabaret, which is intimacy. And so singing in this speaking range feels to me like I'm having a conversation
Mhm.
as opposed to being really high up.
And you can
Um,
hear the tone in her voice. If you have not heard her sing, it's an extraordinary instrument. It's this deep, rich sound. unlike anyone. I mean, your voice and Katie Neiheisel's are the two voices I covet in terms of that lower, delicious lower register and everything. So good on you because your speaking
Yeah.
voice is exactly there. When you speak, that's where I hear you, and that's where I
Right.
now hear you singing.
Right, right. And so I still travel up into the
Of
higher
course, yeah.
range depending on the song. And I've learned to do vocalese and I've learned to, I think, relax a little bit more because when you're studying classical music, there's literally a right and a wrong way.
Mm,
And that can mess with your head a little bit. And it's taken me a while to go. It's not about perfection. It's
mm.
about, at least for cabaret and also recording, but recording is a completely different thing. It's about intimacy.
And communication, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree
yeah.
completely. Well, if you want to hear this extraordinary voice and if you want to experience this intimate experience with Miss Celia Berk, she will be performing at 54 Below on May 4th at 7 p.m. Tickets are now on sale. Right below this interview, I'm going to have a link to her is your CD on sale right now? Is it
The first EP of the series, yes,
okay?
summer,
And
excuse
then
me.
I'll put a link to your Amazon or wherever I'll find where your link is so you can get her CDs and we'll put a clip of her singing and a direct link to ticket sales for this particular show. So just scroll down underneath this interview after you watch this and we will see you next time. Celia, thank you so much. I know this was brief, but thank you so much for spending
No,
some
thank
time with
you. It
us.
was a pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Best with everything with this new project. I know it's going to be spectacular.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time on Sue's Muse.